Back to another great edition of my Grue Rume Show. For the Grue Rume Show today, I got a very awesome guest, and he's an actor, and his name is Reza Diako. Diako, and I'll have you say your name when you come on. I apologize if I spelled it wrong, but we're going to talk about all about his role in the hit series The Chosen, and we're going to talk about his acting life and growing up and everything else in the entertainment world. I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Room, and my interview be coming up very soon. This is my Grue Room, and as always, folks, welcome to my nightmare, my gruelings. So stay tuned. All right, buddy. Welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time and coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Definitely, bud. Definitely. So I guess the first question I want to start out asking you, typical question right off the bat, is what drew you to want to act? Like when did you know this is something you wanted to do and had the passion for it?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, for me, it actually almost started a little later, officially,
Hmm.
because I was one of those who was like, oh no, like it's one of those things that you have to try and think with your mind, and it's like logical and go down the sort of logical path. It's kind of a weird story because I started out um, sort of pursuing a path in psychology. I had been to like 10 schools in 4 different countries, so I thought
Oh
maybe
my.
yeah, it's wild. I can't even remember my life anymore because of all the changes. Uh, but no, I just it was very last like how do we say it? So I was doing those during those years I was thinking, okay, I want to do something that's impactful in the world and work on uh commonality between different people across the world. That's kind of something that mattered to me. And one of the things that people carry with them is like some type of like, trauma or issue. And I was trying to find a way to maybe set up a psychotherapy center. That was sort of the aim initially, to
Oh, okay.
especially for young people. So I thought it would make a difference in the next generation. So I kind of started out with that plan. And I know that's a long-winded way of getting there, but actually, I started there and I started doing psychology and studying human beings at various different levels. At uni, I ended up going to med school, thinking becoming a psychiatrist might be the way to set up this place, center,
Hmm.
get me in the right rooms. But then somehow, life took a pause. I was like in the middle of med school, and then I took a break, and then I was very passionate about art generally all throughout my life because my mom's a painter and she instilled it from a very young age. So I was, playing music and, writing very bad poetry and some very strange songs and all that kind of stuff. And I did a lot of acting classes probably since I was like 12, and kind of consecutively because for me it was
Hmm.
also just a way of like understanding human beings at a very deep level. And uh, and then it sort of I never had an idea that would turn into like the profession. But when I took a pause in med school, I just like I had like a year or two to like decide what's going to happen and whether I was going to go back or something. And I thought I'd apply to drama school and sort of let the universe. It was almost like a two-phase situation where he flips a coin and lets destiny decide. So I did that, and destiny threw me in a very different trajectory. And part of that was just because like everything kind of unfolded really fast after I came out of drama school because things unfolded really quickly. And yeah, I just kind of saw that as a sign that this is where I've got to go. And like, of course, I love art and like I was always sort of an artist at heart. Like
Oh, all right.
I'm much better at being felt than understood, especially because of being all over the world. I think feelings and arts are like a bridge that allows people to kind of find common ground where there seems to be difference. So that was sort of the sort of maybe the impetus and the driving point that led me to kind of succeed, I guess. Plus the psychology background, which means I never stop asking questions and going quite thoroughly in my approach to the craft, I guess. So yeah,
Oh,
and probably
nice.
a little crazy as well. So it all kind of comes together, and we have a soup.
There you go. So then you were like doing plays before you started doing like film and television. You were doing like all different plays and theater.
Yeah, yeah, I was a little bit, yeah. So this is when like in London and across like the UK, there's like there's fringe festivals and so on and so forth. So I was like going to Edinburgh Fringe Festival and I was doing like festivals across London and theater shows. Again, like I was much more driven in projects that had something to say about humanity and the condition of humanity. So I did something that was about like gang violence in like across London. It was very, close to my heart. I did another
Oh,
theater show that was like almost like a folk tale about a girl who discovers her true essence by entering or venturing off into a land far away from her village and meeting this crazy warrior guy and also this like woman goddess, and they both kind of teach her about the dance of the full healthy masculinity and femininity. So I was
hmm.
pretending to play the epitome of masculinity at the time, which was actually very interesting to me because I have a lot to learn from that guy. So
And when you started doing like films and short films and TV and what was the first role you ever had like outside of doing theater?
that's a good question. Well, I was kind of doing like little short films here and there. I think in the time. So what I found kind of strange is, what is it like? Some of these like career coaches and like big gurus always say like, do the things that you do as a child and do the things that you do when like, you can't stop doing. And I think that kind of happened to me because I was like, even as a kid, me and my sister would always do like crazy like skits and stuff together, and I almost like
Oh,
wrote these, like really strange tragedies where we would like cross dress and like someone would always die because love and
yeah, true.
but but then yeah, when I was in psychology and medicine and so on and so forth, I actually had a difficult time, especially in med school. Even though I was like really working hard and trying to be focused, I was getting some type of like chronic fatigue and so on and so forth, which is very interesting because then like a lot of I ended up doing a lot of acting because they say, what is it, like expression is the opposite of depression. I always like to,
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes. So I like that idea, and also like in the methodical, monotonous world of like science, this like light of art was so beautiful to be able to like do things that are meaningful. So going back to like your question, I kind of threw myself even before I went to drama school on like a couple of little like indie projects that because maybe I was very oriented in the psychological domain, I really like to like research. I was like offered these like leading parts. One of them was about like homelessness in like London. Again, like topics that I thought like if you throw yourself into, let that, let that call like let the story and let the sociopolitical situation hit you. And then through kind of going into that unknown world and really meticulously and responsibly researching it, you can also then help, portray that in a way that then also hits other people. So like one of them was about homelessness. Another one was called what was it called? Tummy ache, which was this weird like
Oh,
uh
all right.
epic story of like this sort of uh this like two guys who like kind of fall in love, and then basically it's a very weird story between like some Italian prince and some guy who's like trying to fight, like my character is like trying to fight like drug addiction and so on and so forth, uh and then things get really surreal and strange, and you know I wouldn't say more because maybe somebody is uh thinking of watching that strange film, but I enjoyed doing it because I think it was again trying to hit it like, you know, uh, existential issues. So yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And but before you got to be part of the series, the Chosen, you were in something almost similar to it. You were in Son of Man, and
Oh,
it's almost similar to it. And what was your experience like with that?
that's a funny little point in the research that you've gathered. Yeah, no, I'd forgotten about that entirely. That was a show that it was a theater show Very interesting. It was about it was fictional, but it was about a story of like a mentor of Jesus Christ, who comes maybe ahead of his time, and he gets kind of what's the word? He gets punished for it. So like it was.
Oh.
I don't remember too many details of that, but it was very interesting, and it was, yeah, you're right. I think somehow throughout my life, both in terms of like schools I went to and also like the projects I've done, it almost always kind of weirdly leans into like religious topics. Even when I was doing like reading Lolita recently, like the character I was portraying was like very Islamic, sort of Islamic society guy. So I've ended up having to like read like every single like at least like monotheistic holy book pretty thoroughly to try try and depict the sort of essence and the energy of what they have to say, and then to be able to kind of embody the characters who are, very firmly, believing in that material. So it's been quite an adventure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny. Like you were part of that, the Son of Man. Now you're on The Chosen, and they're both religious shows, and then you also played the devil too in something.
How did you find this stuff? I'm so, I'm so perplexed. This was a short film about yeah. Can't believe this. This is a little short film about a guy who ends up stuck in this kind of space where he's getting evaluated whether he's going to go to heaven or hell, and he's
Hmm.
contemplating his destiny, as we all do on a regular basis. And I was enjoying the prospect of playing the devil to kind of enjoy the game of messing with his ambivalent confusion, which was very, very cool, very different. I like to base it on like animals, so I was like playing very into the goat story. Had my
Oh,
little
yeah, yeah, yeah.
goatee going. We're hitting in a very different, very primal, animalistic, and slightly, yeah. But also, it's like funny because the devil's kind of interesting because people try and lean towards this sort of horror side of it, but actually
Hmm.
sometimes the devil comes to you as a sort of woeful, what is the word? Not woeful. Uh, lost the word. As a very endearing friend, or potentially a sort of a sensual companion. So yeah, you gotta be careful when that happens.
Okay.
I don't know why I said, but maybe life experience, but
And were you a fan of the series The Chosen before you got to be part of it?
yeah, yeah, I was very much a fan. I really wanted to get on the show. I loved the show, and it was actually funny because I was actually in Egypt doing like a different series, and I was the one kind of because I got to LA and I'd spoken to the casting director of the show, and she was like, "Oh, be careful, because we're gonna be casting soon." So I was watching, and so I actually found the sort of audition that was coming up, and I told my team, and that's how it started. So I was very much on the ball. I'm glad I caught it because it was very like sudden. I was in the middle of, I don't usually like look for that kind of stuff, and I was like, oh, like hello, well, let's do this thing. And yeah, it was quite a miracle to get on it in this weird way. And I auditioned for it. I auditioned actually weirdly for Philip 2 years before that. And
Really?
yeah, yeah, when I first, you have season two when everybody joins in. So I'm like,
Yeah.
obviously, like I'm replacing Philip in season four, and it was really interesting because in season two, obviously we were all auditioning for like different characters, and I was reading for a few, and like I'm always interested in like characters who are different from me and being unknown. So I was like looking at all these, like I was looking at the Judases and the Z's and all that kind of stuff. And then it was funny because like when I got the Philip sides, I was like, I can't really like I don't feel like there's any artistry because I just have to play very close to who I am because there's certain things about it that was very, very very, very close to my experiences. So yeah.
Oh, wow. And what was it was when you're coming on, like this is a show that's already been out for a couple seasons, and you're coming on the show now. Was it was it cool to come on? Like how was the cast like when you're coming in because you're basically replacing someone, and was the cast like very well welcoming?
100%, yeah. I mean, the first part was really surreal because like one of the kind of crew members took me on a tour around the whole set. And I've been on sets, but like this set is like really impressively designed. Like it's like they have this place that is like the whole thing is basically just like all the things you see in the show, it's actually there, including like all the water and everything. So
Oh
it's
wow.
it comes very real and it kind of like hits you very quickly just by being in the area. So that was really a thing. Just like, you know, yeah, that was just the thing. I can't really describe it. It was just like everything felt so like, whoa, like hitting you. And then the cast, they're just like amazing. I've kind of said it multiple times, but they call it the chosen family, and everybody
Mhm.
kind of leans in with a sense of like contribution and meaning that isn't just about like the business side of things. And like you can feel it, you can see it in their eyes and the way that they dedicate themselves to the work. And we have very crazy hours and sometimes very challenging, dark and complicated scenes, and
Yeah.
everybody's there for each other, and it's pretty magical. I've even like in season 4 when I came, there was a lot of like what they call walk and talk scenes where you're under the sun and going nuts, and because it's like you repeat it over and over again. And I was trying to be Philip, and I try to be like, oh yeah, like I'm used to this, which I'm definitely not in real
Mhm.
life. But I was like, I don't need the sunscreens and the umbrellas, and I don't need that kind of stuff. And oh shoot, lights have fallen. Yeah. And then, but then, I was nearly dying at some point and fainting, and it was really funny. But
Oh
but
my God.
speaking of the cast and crew being very kind, they were all very careful and give you all the electrolytes and all the sort of scientific things that you have to
Yeah.
take to make sure you stay alive and vibrant.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And like how does it feel to like to actually play that role of Philip and be part of that? I mean, everyone knows the stories of that era, the Bible and Jesus and everything, and how's it feel to actually be part of that and playing Philip?
Yeah, I mean, it's very one of the things I love about The Chosen as a general thing is that they kind of take a very historical drama approach to the whole thing. So it's a very explorative human experience of these characters who were present during the time of Jesus,
Hmm.
and trying to like a lot of the sort of material around Jesus before has always been about like his miracles and the grand
Yeah.
moments that we all know, and it's kind of like a little bit more sort of expected. This kind of gets you in a very unexpected place. So it's a lot of discovery available to you because every character has like a little very human aspect that they're grappling with, like Magdalene with her addiction, and Judas with the whole to be or not to be regarding like
Mhm.
the material or the divine reward, or Matthew is in this show has autism, and like I was like one of the first things I was looking into was like what's the heartbeat of Philip, because he was established, which was actually a different thing, because it was interesting to actually almost like co-create it with the on-screen version of the past 2 seasons, which I felt very sort of obliged to do, because even though I was given the freedom to like bring my own stamp, I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure it has a coherency. But one of the things that really like I was looking into is like what is his like pain? What is bringing him into the picture in terms of like seeking this path? And I thought it was a lot about, because in season 5, which this probably isn't the spoiler because it's actually in the text, so we know. But he asked about where's the father when they're at the Last Supper, and I thought that's a very big indicator of like, because when these disciples lose faith, I always wonder like that's when you understand a little bit more of their like human struggles. Um, when he's asking about where the father, I think that's a very interesting question, because he's if you then trace it back, he's a guy who like ran away from home to go live
Mhm.
in the wilderness with John the Baptist, depending on how much the audience knows about the scripture, but eating like locusts and honey, and then he gets he he bravely gets caught and intentionally sort of decapitated for the cause.
I
Uh,
know that was crazy, that scene. Yes.
Right, yeah, in season four, and then these
Yes.
in the show, these characters are very stern because they're stern in their faith and so on. So on the outside, I imagine again going back to like exploring the humanity of that. Like if you were there and that your father figure and your rabbi, ex-rabbi, is that's happening, is
Mhm.
bound to impact you and affect you at a sort of human level, no matter how much you feel steadfast in where you are is correct and right. And what's interesting is then in season five, the person that you relied on and said, "Okay, I'm going this way," and we're gonna kind of you're gonna be the bearer of the pain of what I've left behind in terms of my father figure just dying, and now he's
Yes.
talking about also leaving and dying and that sort of abandonment, and um, that was the part that I really liked, is that sort of human aspect of Philip's character, that despite the fact that he's quite entertaining on the outside and he almost is a peacekeeper and like the bearer of the fun and the gatherer of the family.
Mhm.
He also has his own like issues of almost like becoming a man and becoming the father of what I would see in the future when we see in the Book of Acts. The father of the nation, because he goes out and he's one of the first people who goes out and like reaches out into the world to try and spread the word.
Yeah.
So that was always an interesting thing about his like struggles with like family and fatherhood, and hence why he asks, why, if you're leaving, then at least give me one father figure to like, where is the father, because I need a material here now. um because it's tough otherwise, and I really felt that pain. So yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. Because I that's how I was gonna ask, like to it the scenes of Philip, it's very emotional, and it's also like a little dark, like you mentioned about y- the father fit the figures in his life. And how do you get into like a mind frame to play that kind of role?
That's a very good question. I think every situation is different. I would say the best way I can sort of summarize it is that it's like it's my motto of life, really. It's like one foot in the material and one foot in the divine, or one foot in the known and one foot in the unknown. So you do as
Mhm.
much preparation as you possibly can, depending on what the scene or the situation demands. So in the case of Philip, whether it's like looking at the scripture, looking at the symbolism, looking at the sort of intellectual aspects of it, looking at how it hits in the framework of the whole history, and even in relation to everyone else in the characters. So you're out there sort of exploring things, up here.
Yeah.
But then at some point you also have to make a connection at a heart. I always say it's like a hug or a handshake with your own self and your own soul. And that's sort of the trick part, because like some of my heroes, like Philip Seymour Hoffman says, you have to bleed for the characters. So actually have to uh, look into parts of yourself to discover it at the level that I think the sort of personal level hits at a transcendent level. And you almost have to surrender everything and just let the character also hit you, which might sound a little bit esoteric, which isn't surprising considering we're talking about Philip. But I think that's the best way I can put it. It's like a weird dance between the known and the unknown, and then a lot
Yeah.
of surrendering and co-creating with the rest of the team, because you know everything impacts you when you're sitting in the Last Supper meal. There's a whole energy there that you can't even, like
Mhm.
you can't prepare for that. You just go there and let it hit you, and just respond authentically, and hopefully all the sort of known parts has already been instilled inside you. Kind of weird and strange and
And,
touches. Right.
yeah. And what do you like most about like Philip's path with Jesus?
That's a very good question as well, man. You're good. You're killing it.
Thank you.
Um, Absolutely. Well, I mean, in season two, we have that beautiful moment between Philip and Jesus, where he comes in and says, I have one thing to say to you, and he's like, follow me, and I will. That's a beautiful moment that you see
Mhm.
in the actual show. Now, there's a moment before that if you know about the history, that Philip was actually present when Jesus' baptism was happening and by John the Baptist, and he actually sees the heavens open and all the magic of that. So, in that sense, Philip is one of the only disciples, or probably the only disciple, who kind of didn't require a miracle in real time, at least during the time of the show, to be convinced
Yeah,
of his connection with God, let's say. So he's very keen. I think it was it was kind of like an obsession. uh Even though he loved his, because this is what I think, like he loves his own father figure and John the Baptist, and
of
it's
course.
home, and it's like his tribe. So it's something pretty special has happened for him to like decide to abandon all that again, or not abandon, but like put aside all of that and then set out into this quest to just follow Jesus wholeheartedly. Like he says, like, I will follow you no matter what. um
Exactly.
and I think what's interesting about that is also because he's so convinced, and in that little discussion they have, he says that your presence, because you have had the tests and the tribulations of John the Baptist, that your sort of wisdom and experience is going to be really handy. And I think I find that very interesting, because as things get more dark, it's like a lot of these other disciples tend to get pretty intense in their sort of human needs, whether that's like their concerns or their anxiety, or sometimes their anger, and even with each other and so on. And I find
Yeah.
it interesting that Philip almost makes it a mission for himself to like keep the tribe together no matter what. And I always wonder, like, why does he go more quiet, let's say in 4 or 5? But I wonder if part of that might be that he's like, he only speaks when it's absolutely necessary, so that
Mhm.
every other voice of sort of chaos can have its little dance. And he's described as someone who's like really comfortable with chaos and conflict, but he kind of almost becomes this little um, water over fire that kind of brings everyone back to the sense of like, let's focus on where we're going. Um, and then afterwards, I mean, again, like there's a whole father relationship thing that on the material side, I think he has with Jesus, and that's why I think the 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 death of him can have a very personal impact on Philip. I mean, I don't know, 'cause
Yeah.
I haven't read the rest of the story yet. Don't tell me
Yeah.
stuff. But at least like internally, I anticipate that it's very painful, because um, it's pretty personal, and then what happens after, we kind of know in history, but also
Well, yeah.
in the sense of the script, we'll leave it to the writers, and let's see.
Yeah, definitely. It's all you could do is wait and see what they write now. And when you aren't filming and doing roles, what do you like doing during your free time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm kind of a little bit of an obsessive, so I like to kind of stay in the world of like, I tend to get really obsessed with the world of the character. So I try to like kind of physiologically keep myself in the place the character would be, which is a little bit mad and possibly unnecessary, but it's part of my madness that we indicated earlier. So I tend to try and like eat like the character as much as I can, train like the
Okay.
character. So I still do the stuff that I like, but I kind of try to tweak it for the sake of the character. And then every sort of thing I listen to or explore in terms of the world, I always almost like open myself so that I'm like having an intention of like, let this hit me through the lens of this character now. And that's something that's pretty cool, because you get to, because I really like that. Like that's part of the reason I love acting, is that when you open yourself to a whole new window of like perceiving the world, you can see things in a very different way that maybe as you yourself you might see as, oh, like that's not me, and maybe even attack that perception. But actually, if you open yourself to it, it's like very interesting, because you can develop much
Yeah.
more empathy and expand your horizons as a person, and as an artist, when you in your own relationships with life. But other than that, I just like to connect to the cast, because they're a big part of it, and it's like a weird circus act. Like you go kind of jump from one project to another, and you get these very intense connections with people, and then they disappear into their families and lives and
Oh
come.
yeah.
The good thing about The Chosen is you get to come back, and you're like this weird like brotherhood that, re-engage every every few months of the year. Um,
Right? Yes.
because yeah, until we get old, this is all going to be great. And yeah, so what else? Yeah, I mean, other than that, I like a bit of dancing. I play a lot of piano. That's sort of a way of finding my soul in the midst of the chaos of filming. Um, yeah, and just write a bunch of poetry and nonsense yeah, uh, yeah, that's it.
What kind of songs do you like listening to? Like, what's on your playlist?
That's a good question. I like a lot of stuff. I'm a big fan of lyrics because I like to write a bunch of nonsense. Um,
Hmm.
I like people like, now we have the film Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan. I love stuff like what else do I like? Passenger, The Passengers, like a very like almost like folky
Yeah.
sound. I love a folky sound. I love some of the singers that probably no one will know about, so I'm not gonna uh but then you have the Fleetwood Macs as well and so on.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the 80s stuff. Yeah, a mixed bag, and yeah, and I also like classical music because I was classically trained in piano, so I like that as well.
Okay.
Different aspects, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're all over the place.
Yeah, definitely all over the place. It's a beautiful.
And you mentioned you love Bob Dylan. Did you get to see the that movie Timothy Chalamet plays?
I did. He's incredible. I'm a big fan of him and his career, but also like the way he depicted that. It was the most
Hmm.
realistic I've ever seen him do, and he's amazing. And the rest of the cast as well. I'm a big Ed Norton fan, and yeah, the little duets that they do between Timothy and
Yes.
man, that's just it hits you. I was crying through it, and yeah, it was a very tearful experience.
Yeah, no, that movie was, yeah.
Yeah, did you like it as well?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Cry as
Like,
well.
yeah. I mean, like growing up, my parents like loved that style of rock, like Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. So I grew up with those kind of guys.
Yeah, something about that sort of heart on the sleeve, like uninhibited, like truth that people like express, and it's less about the sort of technicality and how it sounds, and it's more from the heart. Like there's nothing like that, I think, in life, when those little glimmers of light happen. Yeah.
Definitely. So, what do you think would be your go-to karaoke song if you were going to sing something?
I don't do that very much, but I do if it's for fun, I do a very interesting rendition of Barbie Girl with my very high pitched falsetto that people enjoy. Yeah. If it's more serious, it would be all sorts. Like, I mean, I like Elvis a lot, so anything from
Mhm.
Elvis. I like, it could get really dark, but I love In the Ghetto, like that song. It's like I like stuff that's meaningful. So if I feel like the crowd's right and they're interested in a little moment of mellow madness, then I'm going to be involved. Or always ready to, do the Barbie girl. So
Oh, right, there you go. And, I always ask my guests this when they're on the show, but we were just talking about Jesus, and it's kind of weird to ask this, but are there any horror films you like to watch?
ooh, interesting. I'm actually studying a lot of that for reasons for something that I'm potentially working on. So I'm actually going through a lot of horror. So that's why if you actually have some tips, please let me know. But I like the Midsommar stuff. I like Midsommar. I don't know if that class is a horror. It was horrifying to me watching those people and their skulls break and all that. Spoiler alert. But that was weird. I love that director. So like anything they do is always really cool. Beau is Afraid, I really love. But let's see, like classic horror. Like give me some examples of like some of the ones that are like. What are your favorites?
Oh man, like I like 80s horror like the most, like Freddy Krueger and Jason and Chucky, the little killer doll Chucky.
Yeah.
Halloween, Michael Myers, like those type of films are like the films I like the most.
I need to take notes from you. What about it? Did you like it? The whole dance.
Oh yeah,
That was
definitely, definitely.
that's how I dance normally, so I felt very connected to the character. So yeah. My life's a horror. That's why I probably don't have as much knowledge of yeah, I didn't say that.
No, but it was good. Like Pennywise the clown is scary, and now they got like the newer killer clown that's out. Art the Clown Terrifier is the name of those movies. They made three Terrifier films now, and it's like this newer clown, and he's silent and he's pretty scary.
And he has a kid,
Hmm?
and he has a child. Is that what's going on? Is
No,
Penny's
no, no. He's just like this evil clown that's going around killing and no purpose, nothing. Just yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, horror is good. I like being scared. Being scared is important. Face your fears, or it will face you.
That's a good quote. I like that quote.
Thanks.
Yeah. And are you a coffee or tea drinker? Like I know you're drinking something hot, right?
Yeah, this is 100% black coffee, no additional sugars, purist vibes. Coffee and water, this is like I live off this. Every now and again food gets into the story, but most of it is this. So speaking of the horrors of life, things you got to sacrifice for your, health and well-being. Um,
Exactly.
or its opposite, depending on, the advice of the newest fad diet. So
Sure. Yes.
what about you? It's your coffee.
Me, I prefer coffee over tea. Like I'm a coffee guy, and I usually drink it black, but then on the weekends I treat myself and I do like the cream and sugar. But during the week I usually do it black.
Good health and well-being. Yeah. And tea is just like flavored water. It's like soup.
Basically, yeah.
I don't like soup and stuff like that. Anything that's water that's like if it's water, it's got to be pure.
Hmm.
So you can walk on it.
You have to walk on the tea bags, right? And, is there is there anything coming up for you that you would like to plug? Like anything you're working on?
Yeah, I'm working on this like yeah, as I said, sort of a little like horror film that's happening. Like I would say it's horror. I don't know. It's like scary vibes. At least it scares me. And it shows us these vibes always coming out. I was reading Lolita is running around the festival, so if you get to catch it, that's going to be very exciting. It's a book adaptation of this beautiful time of 1980s Iran where true horrors occur, where this dictatorship shows up and starts canceling art and love and freedom.
Oh.
So it's pretty sad. I cry every time in a different way to that film every time I go for promoting it. And what else? Then there's this film called The Astronaut, which will eventually be out soon, as Jesus says. That's the story of it's I play a NASA head of NASA, trying to understand what's going on in a very strange world where aliens are involved, I think. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Well, I mean, they are like showing more UFO sightings now, so you never know.
I could be an alien for all that matters.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I'll ask you is where could fans follow you at?
I tend to use Instagram the most. So, the Reza Diako 93, that's the place to go. I'm working on, building a bigger following on my, X, as they say, and so
Oh
on.
yeah.
So eventually you'll find me on all the other platforms, but for now, Instagram would be the best place to go. Or just try and follow me behind my back, and when I turn around, try and hide so that it gets into a realistic horror film, and we'll try and figure out who's the alien and who's the human.
That's that's true. You definitely find out who's the real alien there. Yeah.
That's my style, just chase scenes, horses. Yeah,
Exactly. Yes. Well,
this is up here. I'm a second.
well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It was really nice meeting you and chatting.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a blast, and I always want to speak to you again. And please send me your recommendations of film. I'm very excited to explore and get scared to death.
Okay, okay, I promise.
All of us have anything to say about recommendations, I'm always interested to hear as well. So, um,
Well, I will definitely send you a nice little list of horror films to get scared by.
bear my fear.
All right. Well, we'll definitely have a great night, and thank you so much again for doing this.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Take care.
All right.